Mary is a life. I'm just going to edit the first part. You're a lifetime coach, an entrepreneur, social media influencer, motivational speaker, and you're author of Everyone Needs a Hero. Why Can't It Be You? Thanks for joining us and working through our technical difficulties tonight.
Uh, Thank you for having me. I think the most important piece of the bio that's missing is that I'm a human.
Well, I hope you are human wearing all those hats. Where are you at right now? In New York?
I am in Atlanta, actually.
Okay. So how's everything been since the elections is over?
I mean, everything is good on this front. I'm definitely thankful that humanity won.
Right.
So excited to see what's next.
And then I think y'all having another runoff, right? Come January for Chiefs.
I am not up to date on that.
Okay. All right. So jump into it. So what was your mission when you first started your business?
Oh, the mission was to inspire, educate, and motivate the youth of my hometown, Buffalo, New York.
Okay. And so how did you grow the business? What was some of the avenues that you took to grow your business?
Initially, when things started, I was doing a talk show for teens in the city. It was running on Spectrum Cable and streaming service Scoville TV. Back in that was back in 2018. But I also was leading and doing workshops in different schools. So I did a few different workshops on curriculums that I developed and personal development and like speaking, public speaking engagements for students. So that's a few ways of in which really kick things off. But I also done some stuff with production. So I had the liberty of last summer having a team travel with me to Toronto to do a mini documentary on Caravana, one of the organizations that was out there for Caravana. And now the major project that I'm working on is actually a documentary with the New York State Department of Health and Cornell University on healthy masculinity.
Okay, that sounds good. How's that coming along?
It's pretty exciting just to have everything coming together at this time. And really, it was a project that, based off a project that we had already agreed on that I was going to start working on, actually inspired another layer to it because of everything that happened in 2020,
Okay.
especially with Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, heavily influenced my perspective of, okay, how does George Floyd screaming for his mother connect to healthy masculinity as a Black man specifically?
Right.
So it's definitely something I'm excited to and working on consistently to really just share with the world and start a conversation that I think is very necessary.
Why do you feel like this conversation is necessary, especially during this time?
I feel like there's a lot of unsolved situations and problems, especially for the Black man, that root from the entire existence of being in the United States of America. I over the last, I would say, month and a half, I've been able to read a couple books by Dr. King, and reading one is super powerful. The last book he published before he was assassinated, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community. He kind of talks about a variety of topics, but especially how the Black man, especially, is living in a society that's dominated by men, but never been in a position to ever be on the same playing field. And I think, however anybody wants to look at the dynamics of family structures, religious, whatever your values are, we all have to agree that men play an extremely vital role. And in my experience, when a man is in alignment with his purpose and is in alignment with his masculinity as a man, it kind of helps everything else be put in place. So I think that's really part of the core of a lot of our issues culturally.
Oh, yeah. And then when you look at the whole part of how they programmed and went and removed the Black man from our families, you know what I mean? So you have women that have to be men and women while the Black man is removed from our families, which means our dynamics in our structures have changed. which is really important, and we need to have the conversation right now.
Exactly. So my blessing is I grew up in a single parent home, but I still am blessed to be a junior and have had somewhat of a relationship with my father growing up to the point where I know what it's like to have those moments growing up as a black boy and not being able to walk into the room and have a conversation with your dad, but
Mm-hmm.
still understanding that a phone call away or a plane ride away still created a different dynamic that allowed me to have somewhat of a foundation to understand the fundamentals of the importance of just the masculine energy. And me being 27 years old and being able to review from a peer aspect, even from that generation that's just like right ahead of me, like 10 years
Right.
ahead of me, there's so many men that look like me who are not in touch with emotions,
Right.
uh, are driven by a competitive edge, and really are just we just so many times, and I could say we because I've done it. We do things because it's what we identify with. That's what's going to make us feel manly and masculine. And you know, just as a black man in general, as an African American man, however somebody wants to say it, I mean it's essential.
Yeah, and then we looking at where, like you were saying, for black men, it's like you have to put this front facade on. You have to be strong, and you're not supposed to ask for help, and you're supposed to have it all together, and that's not the case. I feel like even with our black men now that's like incarcerated, a lot of them fall upon those paths because no one was there one to guide them. They didn't know that they can reach out for help. You know what I mean? And that's the problem we have in our own communities that I feel like we need to get right, is because another back, growing up, I'm a little older than you, but if you was doing something bad on the street, somebody, an elder on the street can correct you. So we moved away from that, and I just feel like that's really important for black men today.
It's extremely important. I did a few different conversations over the summer, and I was asked like, I think one of the questions was, "What about the men that influence you?" And I really was sitting back reflecting. I'm like, I'm thankful because yeah, I've got some quote unquote OGs, older men that I knew that lived lifestyles that weren't in alignment with what I wanted to live. But I also had a bunch of different men around me in some capacity, whether they were a coach, whether it was a teacher or a preacher. And not to say I was around a lot of teachers, but it was, I had the blessing of being a 90s baby. So I use the analogy of when I watched The Cosby Show, Fresh Prince, Family Matters, Steve Harvey Show, Jamie Foxx, Smart Guy, it was bits and pieces of all those men that I wanted to apply to myself. When I watched, I wanted to be stern like James Evans. I wanted to
Right.
have the money like Uncle Phil. I wanted to be, I knew it was cool to be a smart kid because a smart guy, which we don't talk, I don't think we talk about enough, that was a young black man
Yeah.
who, a young black boy, who's an elementary age child, goes to high school, but they're raised by a single father.
Black. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And you know, Mr. Cooper, like all those different images to me have had a great influence, but I'm also aware of the prime example is Boys in the Hood.
Right.
Boys in the Hood gives us all the different angles of what it means to be a black man and move within our community. So shout out to John Singleton. That vision was something powerful because reflecting on it now,
Mm-hmm.
but then I could even look back, and what I realized recently is like, okay, some people when they watch that, they wanted to have a nice car like Doughboy. They
Yeah.
wanted to be the fly boy like Trey. They wanted to
Mm-hmm.
run fast like Ricky. I remember thinking, yo, I want to be like Furious with the marbles. You know what I mean? That's who I wanted to be like. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
based on our environments, based on the different images we saw, that's kind of how we resonated and identified. And I think it's extremely vital for, like I said, for us as men, not to say in a leadership way and to abuse that power
Right.
that's been abused by so many other leaders, but to really set the mold and really shift everything so that the next generations can be built stronger.
Right. And we also know that right now, how they able to manipulate our brain is through TV. And you'll see, like you're saying, the movies that's coming out. I remember watching Joe Clark, right? And how it was just
Mm-hmm.
Dang, he could take a school that was basically performing below statistics and turn it around and make it be cool to go to school. And like you saying, like, smart guy. He was a single black man raising 3 kids. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
there's no other shows like that. That imagery that we can still say, you know what, it's possible. We can achieve that. And we can still be successful. There's nothing like that really going on.
And it for like when we asked me about the election, I'm very thankful we have a female vice president, and she's a black woman, an
Mm-hmm.
HBCU grad. Powerful imagery for, I have a little sister, I've got nieces. Powerful imagery for all the beautiful black women across our world.
Mm-hmm.
But going into it, I'm like, okay, but the presidents are two 80-year-old white guys.
Right.
So I'm like,
Right.
sorry, that is at the bottom of the barrel, the demographic that can
Right.
resonate with me. Literally anybody else, literally anyone else on the entire planet,
Right.
I would be more in favor of. And I mean, it's interesting because I even think about, and I talk about this a bit in my book, where I talk about how from a male perspective, so many of us have been ingrained and conditioned, whether it be through music, whether it be through film, whether it be through even the other men in our lives,
Right.
that how we identify is just like the barbershop talk. We treating women like stats.
Right.
And oh, however the more you get, the better. And that's really not the case. It's actually showing the insecurities and the really the flaws in us as human beings. But then in the next breath, going through this documentary, one of the greatest definitions that I received that always stuck with me in regards to healthy masculinity is, healthy masculinity is being strong enough to be gentle.
Okay. Okay.
And it's important for, like, what Bill did in his behind closed doors has come out and recently, I can't speak on, but what Cliff Huxtable represented as this
Right.
husband that can rub his wife's feet and cook her a nice meal and sing some sweet music to her and be romantic, is the stern father that can be on Theo, but then he also had the house open to
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Vanessa and her husband and the kids. They could come stay with us, no problem. And even though I can't even, Denise had ran off and did something out of the box, still come here, and Olivia is gonna be my granddaughter. I don't care. Like that's important for, like,
Right.
we need to see that. And I don't think we really, in this modern era, and not to knock anyone in any capacity, everybody has their own lanes, but even in the era of reality television, we don't have those. There's not much that we can really look at and see that. I think Blackish has done some great things because it gives us that parallel between Lawrence Fishburne and Anthony Anderson. And you have the strong personalities of Tracy Ellis Ross and why am I forgetting the mother's name right now?
I
Jennifer
know what you're
Lewis.
talking about. Yeah.
Jennifer Lewis, like, having that dynamic is cool, but we need to see more of it. And I think,
Right.
like you said, the conditioning that comes through social media, music, it's added another layer and another obstacle for a lot of us to really break through.
And that's why I think with your mission is is important. And I know you want to go far, because it's just like the other day I was interviewing a young lady, and she was telling her story about going through a divorce and how us as Black women, we have our own issues, right? But she was saying that her husband didn't know how to be a husband. But let's take a step back, because he didn't have a father figure, and so he didn't even know how to be a husband. And then it was like, and so I'm asking, like, well, did y'all go to counseling? And he was like, in the Black neighborhood or communities, we don't consider counseling. So that we have a lot of issues that we really, as a Black community, we really had to work out and come together with.
Absolutely. I mean, therapy for us, I had there's another person that was interviewed in this documentary process. They said, all we just being Black, we need a therapist. Like, you know what I mean? Like, literally just the experience of, which Dr. King touches on, I'm trying to, what did he say? The color shock.
Right.
The color shock that lies within every single one of us, that we can go into any type of room, any vicinity, whether you're going on an interview, whether you're going grocery shopping,
Mm-hmm.
there's an element that exists. There's this huge elephant in the room that even through all the strides that have made, that we've got Obama and now we've got Madam Vice President Kamala Harris. You know what I mean? These things still exist, and I think a part of it is, I don't know why we feel that way about therapy. I guess it roots from a lot of therapists have typically been white. So
Right.
it's like we don't want to expose ourselves and make ourselves more vulnerable to that type of party. But I think there are a lot of us that have made the stride to get in those positions, to be more relatable. And I think when going through this process of the documentary, which was inspired by a program that was creating a safe space for young men, 12 to 14, to speak freely and vulnerably, I think being able to see more of us
Right.
is what's going to continue to push that and open that door so that we can dig deeper and say, okay, this happened to me when I was 6 years old, and that's why I act X, Y, Z. And now I'm going on a bit of a rant, but I want to bring this up.
That's fine.
I remember when XXXTentacion, I can't remember, he passed away. I can't remember
Right.
what exactly happened.
I think he was
And there were
shot and
people.
killed. Right.
He was shot and killed. He was murdered in Florida, right? In his Lambo, I believe. And there were people on the internet that were criticizing this kid. And I call him a kid not to be disrespectful, but I'm only 27, but I know that age 20, I was in a completely different mind state.
Right.
And I made the analogy. I said, hey, if we looked at Malcolm X when he was just Malcolm Little at age 20, you'd say he's out of control too.
Right.
But I don't know why people forgot at the beginning of his autobiography, he talks about how he watched cops shoot his dad on a railroad track at like 4 or 5 years old. Of course he's gonna look at things differently.
Right.
You're impacted by that. When Jacob Blake happened in Kenosha, Wisconsin, the first thing that came to my mind was, oh my gosh,
Right.
those 3 little black boys may never look at police the same way again.
Right.
For the rest of their life, they will have the image of cops shooting their dad, who to them is their hero. Whether he didn't even do anything that granted that. I don't know if any human really does anything that grants that. But I mean, those type of situations have been normalized for us, depending on where you grew up. And I'm not going to say it's the responsibility of everyone, but I think my biggest message, understanding, appreciation, especially with this past election, is that we all play a role in the history of our world.
Yeah.
Why not maximize that role with honor?
Right. And I look at it like, you know, even if it's just one person or one kid, you know what I'm saying, that you can touch and sponsor or just become a friend or guide them some way. I mean, it just like you're saying, it start with one. And like you're saying, you know, when people, all they see is the violence around them, statistically, that's probably going to be all they get out of life. And that's sad because that child or that individual, had they had the right people in their life or guidance, or at least the right door that'll say, hey, don't, you know, put the gun down, come on in here. He might be, you know, the president or the vice president or something like that. So what we as people, especially as Black, like you saying, it from the election, we have to realize, one, we have power. You know what I mean? We can't keep crying, oh, we don't have this. When we showed up at the polls, we showed that we have power. So we really need to polish up some things and get our community together, because we got kids that we have to raise, and they're going to be the ones the future when we're not here. So it's important.
Is very important. You know, like with everything, how I look at it, and I came to my conclusion is, and I say this, people say, hey, I don't want reparations. I just want to be on the same court with the same access to information and knowledge. Whoever scores the most points scores the most points. Just give me the ball. Give me the same ball. Don't put any ankle weights on me while I'm running down the court. Don't put ladders in front of me as I'm trying to dribble. Just put me. I just want to be on the same court. That's all I want personally.
Right.
And that's what I truly believe freedom is, liberty. And I believe that's something that was given to us divinely, to have that opportunity. So I definitely look forward to the next 4 years to see all of what we can do, and hope that, you know, it's November now. The same energy that people had in May, I want people to have now. My Black Lives Matter mask is still staying on. Just because we quote unquote won, my mindset hasn't changed because I can still
Right.
go to Walmart and I still might get watched. So
Right.
energy doesn't change.
And I mean, it shows you that even with black men being killed by the police officer, it's still going on. I mean, just a couple weeks ago, before the election in Philadelphia, we had a young man that was killed. You know, he had mental health issues. So again, there's so many factors that go on that, you know, influence a lot of this, but we have to continue. Again, if nothing says nothing, we have control, we have power. We just got to voice our power. Don't be lazy and not go out and vote. You vote every time, because that's how you know, let be known. I mean, look at it. Donald Trump said Black Lives Don't Matter, and who showed up in these key states, right? Philadelphia, Georgia, and it was another state, but who showed up? So we have to know that we have the power. So what are some obstacles that you have overcame while you was filming the documentary?
Ooh, the biggest obstacle was COVID,
Right.
and really having to not being in New York State,
Mm-hmm.
where most of the interviewees were, and really just trying to create a game plan that was going to be something that was unique and still share the same story and evoke the same energy. So I would say that's at the top of the list.
Mm-hmm.
Other obstacles, I didn't run into obstacles. So this is something we could talk about. Was so it's in partnership with New York State Department of Health.
Mm-hmm.
So when I basically pitched my idea in more greater detail, that was going to be like, okay, it's not just going to be talking about the program itself, but it's going to be talking about healthy masculinity for Black men in America in its entirety.
Right.
That was some conversations that had to be shared, where it's like, okay, because it's Department of Health and bureaucracy, want to make sure that, hey, I'm not going to be, and I basically told them, like, you either can be a part of this
Mm-hmm.
or not, but
Okay.
I'm going to do it. And I'm not going to do it under circumstances where, oh, I can't say no. I'm going to say what I want to say. You give me the disclosure statements, which they were very cooperative. I don't want to make it seem like they weren't.
Okay.
Everything went smoothly,
Mm-hmm.
but that could have been an obstacle, because it could have been like, oh, well, we don't want to, but then that's the blessing of our time as well,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because maybe a year ago,
They would have been like,
the,
no.
you know what I mean? But based on everything that's happening right now, it's like, yeah, we got to talk about this.
So are they funding? How are you getting funding for your project?
So that was they definitely funded,
Okay.
um, but it's something that I want to see where things go. This is kind of for me. I'm looking at it as it's almost like my Friday.
Okay.
I want to put this together and see where it can lead, because the story doesn't end. These are just a few perspectives from a few different men from Buffalo, New York, but also from a few other places across the country. And it's something I definitely want to expand on, because, like you said, right, our futures, and I think it's extremely important to provide guidance, information, and relatability for all the young men that like us, and yeah, I'm definitely excited to see where things go.
So after this docu series, are you going to be working on another one? In the work.
Now that one, we're gonna have to wait and see. We'll see what he
Okay.
has in store, um, but it'll definitely be something that I want to be aligned with the mission of maximizing my role during while I'm in this realm. So we'll see.
And where will people be able to watch your new docu series that's going to be coming out? And when is it coming out?
So those are two questions that aren't necessarily set in stone yet. I would just say the best way to keep in touch is follow me on Instagram at
Mm-hmm.
Sir Amazing. My website is siramazing.com. So once things are officially set in stone and everything is complete, that's when I'll be making those announcements.
And you know, because we want to inspire people to follow their dreams, whatever it might be. And if someone, what advice would you give to someone that maybe want to get into, documenting their own docu-series or writing a book? What advice would you give them?
Man, to start things off, no one can tell your story
Mm-hmm.
better than you. And there are 7.8 billion people on the planet, but
Mm,
only one you, one person with your mind, your body, your spirit, and most importantly, your vision. And he give it to anybody else. He gave it to you.
that's true. And I just feel like during COVID, I tell a lot of people like this is a time when we get like it's almost like a reset button, right? And if you sit here from March to let's say January and don't do anything, like you have nothing else to complain about. Like you can't say, well, you know what, I didn't do this business because I had to go get a store. Like you don't need a store now.
This was like you said, it was the perfect restart button. It was the perfect time to reflect. It was
Mm-hmm.
time to appreciate family. It was time to see, okay, where did I go wrong? Where did I go wrong in this
Mm-hmm.
relationship? Where did I do wrong at that last job? Why didn't I complete this task? And if those weren't the thoughts that were going through your mind, then I think it speaks to what you truly want. I'm a firm believer in we are exactly where we truly want to be.
Right.
And there are external factors that get in the way, but
Mm-hmm.
ultimately we all make the decisions that we make. And like you said, COVID presented us an opportunity to really, really work on the plan. And most importantly, in a selfish way, to be selfless, work
Mm-hmm.
on self.
Right. 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 And that's true. And that's what I would like our listeners just to hear it and get into their head that, right now you have everything, not saying you have everything at your fingertips, but it's just try and do it, whatever it may be. If it's a business, going back to school, taking care of yourself, whatever goals you set, nothing is, out your reach anymore.
Exactly. If thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believeth.
That's true. All right. So I know you said, so any other projects that you have coming up in the future that you want us, we could check out?
Projects. Right now, it's really, really a documentary. I'm also in school right now, so I'm just finishing up this semester and planning for next.
Okay.
But that's it. Like I said, just stay tuned. Oh, okay. There is something. So, um, there's a few things I will share. I forget sometimes. If you text if you text motivator in all caps at 21,000,
Okay.
it'll you click on the link and there's two different buttons you can press. The first button you can press to get a free quote book. You can
Okay.
download a free quote book right on your phone. And the other button is where you can go right to Amazon and purchase Everyone Needs a Hero. Why Can't It Be You? Also, I'll be sure to make sure I get your email and which I think you did email me before this. I have a monthly magazine, a digital magazine that I just
Okay.
want to share with people. No specific ties or anything like that, but it's just an interesting perspective to share. So our October edition had digital art,
Okay.
business photography, some activism from a poetry aspect, and then a little excerpt from the book. So that is something else people to be aware of.
And do you have any plans on writing any more books? I know you have the one.
So right now, let's see, we've got Everyone Needs a Hero. We've got the quote book. There's actually a personality ebook that I have as well. When you go to my website, you can purchase the Shift Up bundle. It comes with a worksheet, comes with a video, and in that ebook. So that's it for right now. But we'll see. Like I said, the creator, God, he uses how we're supposed to be used. So we'll wait and see what he's got for me.
Well, listen, I thank you for sharing your story, coming past, talking with us, inspiring people to just get out there and try something. Your message is very important, especially when it comes to Black men and masculinity. And just keep doing what you're doing. We'd love to have you back anytime. Just send us an email and you can come back. And we look forward to, the docu-series when they come out.
Appreciate you so much. Thank you for having me on, and I'll be sure to send you a copy of the magazine after we wrap up.
Okay. All right.
Right.